Hello and welcome to MetroArts. I'm your host, Sophia Sanchez. Here on MetroArts, we highlight some of the best in the business, from fine artists, photographers, and performing artists, to cinematographers and musical artists, all from the Metro Detroit area. On today's show, our Checking In segment will feature Geno Harris, Mychal Noir, Reggie Abstrkt, Coleman and Alejandro Valtierra from the Poor Man's Art Collective. We'll also talk to video journalist and documentary producer Brian Kaufman and feature the acoustic pop duo Jaina Bark. We'd like to welcome the co-founders of the Poor Man's Art Collective, Geno Harris and Mychal Noir, back to the Midtown studio. Hi guys.
Hi, how are you?
Good. So you were featured on MetroArts 2 seasons ago, but can you once again describe what the Poor Man's Art Collective is?
Poor Man's Art Collective is a collective of new and emerging and some established artists who have found difficulties in showing their works in galleries here located in the city. Nice. Yeah.
So what's been going on since your last appearance on MetroArts?
Oh wow, we have had 2 shows. Welcome to the Colored Section. Actually, no, 3. Welcome to the Color Section, Thinking Outside of the Box, and Art Is. Most of our shows are themed. We give each artist, well, all of the artists, challenges to help them decide on what they're going to create for the particular show.
Wow,
yeah.
Great. So what advice can you give to emerging artists who find it difficult to display their work?
The best advice we can give is to be honest, to contact us, because what we try to do is give them that forum to show their work where otherwise galleries and establishments wouldn't allow them to, because they are emerging and up-and-coming artists. So the best advice is to look up the PMAC page, for sure.
That's great. So what are your goals for the future?
Our goals for the future is to continue finding and helping new and emerging artists. I myself, I am looking to do a solo exhibition starting next year, but it's always Poor Man's Art Collective and trying to help new artists get their work out there.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what's your current show?
Our current show right now, we have a show coming up in February, which is going to be Inspire the Initiative, and it's a youth. We're going towards the youth. We're trying to get kids out here and inspire them into art and let them be creative. So that's going to be coming up in February. And right now we're just currently working on that and getting that together.
That's great. So how can people find out more about you?
Poor Man's Art Collective is located on Facebook, and that's kind of how that's our hub. You know, so you can go on Facebook, look up Poor Man's Art Collective and find out everything about all our shows, where we'll be, and everything upcoming.
So I understand that we'll be meeting some artists and seeing their work. Can you tell us who we'll be seeing?
Well, we brought with us today, we brought one of the co-founders as well, Mr. Reggie Abstrkt Singleton. We also brought Alejandro Valtierra and Coleman, who are all, when you see their work, they're all different mediums, just great work, and we brought those guys here with us today.
Okay, well thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Up next, a series of one-on-one artist interviews. So how did you get involved in the Poor Man's Art Collective?
Well, Geno and I had a show together, and I think it was about 2007, 2006 at the Bagley Housing Gallery. That's in, I think that was a gallery in Mexican Town maybe. And we just kind of hit it off. And he started talking about the collective, and we wound up doing the show together maybe a year later. And it just, we just been rolling.
So you had chemistry right from
the
start.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the piece you brought today.
This piece is called Goddess. I recently discovered that all my figures are dancers. So this figure here is I see it as a dancing lady in a flowing gown. She's jumping towards the sky. This figure here is following her, and this is a smaller childlike dancer. He's following these two, and her gown is flowing in the background with the color. So
great.
I recently, as I think more about my art.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you get involved in the Poor Man's Art Collective?
I was attending a show for Bruce Leto and Jack Kenny at the Liberal Arts Gallery, and it just kind of happened magically where this conversation started between Dwayne and Geno and I. and I showed them some photographs of my work, and they invited me to be a part of the show.
Oh, that's great. So how long have you been involved?
A little more than a year now.
Nice, nice. So what inspires this work?
What inspires this work is really just our achievement of oneness, our achievement or an understanding of what goes on in our life, but then at the same time it could be totally absent in the moment that we think we understand what our life experiences are.
Right. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Sure. So how did you get involved in the Poor Man's Art Collective?
I researched, I was on Facebook and saw Geno on Facebook.
Nice.
And I noticed that he did some incredible art, and I wanted to join him.
That's great.
So I got in touch with him maybe in 2010, and from then I became in his first show, 2011, which was Welcome to the Color Section.
Oh, wow. Cool. So tell us a little bit about your piece that you brought today.
Well, this piece here is, I named it Jazz Masters, and it's with all of my favorite jazz artists on it. Thelonious Monk, Bird, Miles, Coltrane, Charles Mingus, and Dizzy Gillespie.
Great. So tell us a little bit about what inspires your work and
The music, actually.
the music.
Yes, the music is very, very free flowing. You know,
That's great.
as my art is.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about your inspiration for this piece.
Well, my artwork, what inspires me about my artwork is a lot of my life experiences. I had gone through a lot physically, and I needed an outlet to express myself, and you know, I gravitated towards the more bright colors to kind of offset a lot of the things that I was going through in my life, and this is the end result.
So tell us a little bit about the form of the...
Well, actually, the name of this piece is called Pathways, and it really expresses a lot of the different things that were going on in my life. And in a lot of my pieces, you'll see the circular, which is representative of me and everything that is coming into my life and leaving out of my life.
So what material is this?
This is two different types of paper. It is a Japanese tissue paper called unryu and a paper called lacta. And that is what I use in my artwork.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us a little bit about the art piece you brought today.
Well, the piece I brought with me today is called Haunted, and it's kind of a representation of artists in the past and just different mediums and different techniques that I use to express how I feel about the art at that moment.
So what inspires your work?
Honestly, a lot has to do with music. Music and the artists that are in the collective. I get inspired a lot by them, by seeing their work, so a lot of it has to do with them and the music that I'm listening to at that time.
So describe your artistic process a little bit.
My artistic process, it varies. Like, the first thing I usually do is pick the colors and the music, and then whatever comes out on the canvas, it usually surprises me as well, which is why I do abstract art, because it's just so expressive, and it represents the mood and the moment at the time.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you to all of today's artists. You're watching MetroArts on Detroit Public Television. And now let's welcome award-winning video journalist and documentary producer Brian Kaufman from the Detroit Free Press to the Midtown studio at Wayne State. Welcome.
Thank you.
So what is a video journalist?
A video journalist is like a photojournalist. We do nonfiction, we tell stories, but video is obviously with moving images. Photojournalism is with still images. So it's storytelling, it's nonfiction storytelling in that medium.
So what inspired you to become one?
Well, it's fun first and foremost, and nonfiction storytelling is really important to what we do in life, and it's important to our communities, and there's a lot of stories waiting to be told out there, and we're just trying to tell them. So
where did you first get your start?
I grew up in California. I studied both photojournalism and video journalism, and took on video journalism because of its potential, its storytelling. Moved to Florida briefly, and then moved up to here, to the Detroit Free Press about 7 years ago. And I've been working for them, been living here ever since.
So what inspires you about Detroit?
Detroit's a fascinating place for journalism, first and foremost. The whole region, the whole state, really. It's pretty diverse, and there's not many places like it in the country. It's really unique when it comes to journalism.
Good. And one of your projects, Packard, The Last Shift, was featured in the Freep Film Festival. What led you to make this documentary?
So when I moved to Detroit about 7 years ago, a friend and I went to the Packard plant. I didn't know anything about it at the time, didn't even know the name of it till after I'd gone there for the first time. And I was fascinated with it from the get-go and started looking around and couldn't find anything that had been done in the media broadly about the Packard plant, little bits and pieces here and there. And so the idea was always in the back of my mind that it would be great to do a major story here, a major film, and look at the plant's history and see why it has gotten to the shape that it's gotten to. That's what started it. And luckily, you know, it's a newspaper, so projects can be longer. We didn't have deadlines for a while, and we were able to work on this for about 3 or 4 years, actually.
Nice. So what specifically about the history did you like about the plant?
The most fascinating point in this project for me was finding the photographs of the plant in full operation, you know, in the 20s and 30s, and taking those photographs and going to the plant and seeing the difference between a room as it looked in the 20s and as it looks now, and then trying to replicate those scenes with photographs so that the users can compare online back and forth. That was, by hands down, the most fascinating part of the whole process.
Yeah, it's such an interesting juxtaposition.
It is.
Yeah. So we have a video clip of Packard, The Last Shift. Let's watch.
Depending upon who you believe, we're looking at, and I'll say this very slowly, 3.5 million square feet. Now, that may be an exaggeration, but any way you slice this is one very large property.
I mean, look at it. It's amazing, you know?
It's kind of scary. You don't know what you're going to find inside, but it's amazing.
You know, I know that people throughout the world think that this is really incredible and it's art, and we can appreciate that, but people also have to understand that it's an immediate and imminent threat to public safety.
Right now it's a shell and a ghost of its former self. I don't think there's any hope for resurrecting it, but symbolically, to think that it began a revolution.
Assembly lines 3/4 of a mile long, moving in an overhead highway system of critically timed progress.
Packard itself had a kind of reputation for real class. This is a classy car. I had no idea why my grandfather was driving it. He was not the classiest guy in the world. Ask the man who owns one, he would always say.
These are some of the things that have taken up the first 50 years of the Packard story. And now, what about the next 50?
It was an entirely different life. And I don't think Detroit will ever be the same way again.
And nobody that I knew of thought that this place would last this long, another 60 years after it was closed.
The ornate ceilings and the polished marble floors and the grand staircase, just basically totally destroyed. You kind of just want to see it demolished rather than see it in the condition it's in.
Looking at it, every day getting up, looking at it, just disgusting.
Because right now, the building as it is, it represents the future, and it's nothing. So we need somebody to turn our nothing into something.
Probably the last couple years, especially with this building over here, it's, I don't know, what can I say? It's pretty depressing.
That was really powerful video. So what are you currently working on?
Well, the good news is I think the Freep Film Festival is going to happen again next year. And so we're looking for content. And we're hoping to do a film about a guy who's made it his life's work to photograph the Detroit Fire Department. So through his work, you see the city changing, the landscape changing. That's as general as I'll make it for now, but that's the concept.
Nice. So where can we learn more about you?
You can see a lot of my videos at freep.com. That's where I post all my work, obviously. And I have a personal website, bkjournalism.com, with selected videos that span 10 years previous.
Wow, okay. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
You're watching MetroArts on Detroit Public Television. Jaina Bark is a Michigan-based indie acoustic pop duo featuring Chelsea Carter and Alita Casada. They're here in the Midtown studio to perform Run Flying.
Come on, my dark Rapunzel, let down your hair, and I can show you a new life far away from there. And we can spin through your city via truth or dare, and I will make you mine or die trying. I know they've kept you locked up in that tower of theirs. You've been fearing your insanity for years, but your life is anxious knowing its beginning is near. And you will be just fine or die trying. We'll run flying. Work with me. Now's not the time for hide and seek, or is it? Or is it? Put on your best shoes and let's make a run for it. We don't need wings to get us to cloud nine. All we need is the sky. So if you're aching to fly, hold on. We'll run flying or die trying. I know there's still a mystery outside these walls, and it will outsurvive if you just make the call. But it won't be worth your while unless you risk it all. So come on, walk the line or die trying. We'll run flying. Work with me. There's still an untold story waiting for you. For you. Put on your best shoes and let's make a run for it. We don't need wings to get us to cloud nine. All we need is the sky. So if you're aching to fly, hold on. Put on your best shoes and let's make a run for it. We don't need wings to get us to cloud nine. All we need is the sky. So if you're aching to fly, and if you're willing to jump, if destination is up, hold on. We'll run flying or die trying.
What a great song. Thank you so much for being here today. So you both met in an interesting way. Can you tell us about how you met on MySpace?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, MySpace used to be a thing that people used.
Right.
And I was sort of searching through looking for another musician to collaborate with, and I stumbled upon this one's page. And it used to be set up so that as soon as you landed on the page, the music would start playing. And I heard maybe 4 measures of her voice. And I was like, oh, we need to be friends and write music together immediately. So I sent her a message, which she ignored for months because she thought I was crazy.
Quite some time. I ignored it for quite some time.
And then she finally agreed to meet. So she came down to my apartment in Detroit. And it actually took us a really long time that night to get around to the music because we had such a good click immediately, like as people. So we talked until like 3 o'clock in the morning before we actually got around to music. But that's how we met.
That's really great. So a lot of your music has uplifting messages. Can you tell us what you hope to convey to your listeners?
I think in general, as musicians and artists, we strive to do things that mean something. And that's why it's really important for us to put out music that we feel like people can connect to. And Stand specifically, being a part of the LGBT community, it was something that we really felt was necessary for us to put out there and let people know that we care and that, you know, this is part of our life and we hope that people can, you know, stand with us.
Oh, that's great. Nice. So your band's name sounds similar to Joan of Arc. Is there a backstory there?
Yeah, there's a backstory there. So we initially picked Joan of Arc for our band name, and that's what it was for about 8 months. And little did we know there was another band that still exists out of Chicago, an all-dude band also called Joan of Arc. And some of their fans started sending us hate mail. So we immediately decided that we need to do something about it. And so a photographer friend of ours actually suggested changing the Joan to Jane. And we loved it.
We were on board.
So that's what we did.
Cool. So where can we learn more about you?
Anywhere, we're everywhere. We have our website, which is www.jainabark.com. We're on Facebook, Facebook.com/JainaBark. And we also have a funny Instagram. We're silly people in general, so we post funny pictures and videos all the time, and like everywhere, Tumblr, anywhere.
Twitter.
So a lot of different places.
Yes.
All the
Great.
places.
Well, thank you so much for being here today. So you're going to play another song called Say. Once again, here's Jaina Bark on MetroArts Detroit.
Took the red eye, I guess this means that you finally moved on. And I bet the wind is on your back and the sun is on your pretty face, 'cause you always find your way. And if I had it all my way, you come crawling back to there. I think we both know there's nothing left to say. Hey, I used to miss your good days, quickly forgot your cruel ways. I know it's time now to bravely soldier on. Besides, I know she suits you best. Foolish me, I held you tight like sand, and you always find your way. And if I had it all my way, you come crawling back today. I think we both know that there's nothing left to say. Hey. Drag out fights, but if I had it all my way, you come crawling back today. I think we both know that there's nothing left to say.
We hope you enjoyed today's show. I would like to thank our guests, Geno Harris, Mychal Noir, Reggie Abstrkt, Coleman and Alejandro Valtierra from the Poor Man's Art Collective, video journalist Brian Kaufman, and acoustic indie duo Jaina Bark for joining us today. Remember, you can watch any of our shows online at MetroArtsDetroit.com. I'm your host, Sophia Sanchez, reminding you to seek out inspiration and explore the arts in your community.